Welcome to Inside Scoop Live, the podcast where indie authors get personal, sharing insights about their books, their writing journeys, and their passions. I'm your host, Sherry Hoyt, and I invite you to join me for engaging conversations with both debut indie authors and seasoned veterans. Whether you're looking for your next great read or a bit of inspiration, you've come to the right place. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Tessa King joins the show today to talk about her debut novel, My Wingman. It's a heartfelt, uplifting story about love, loss, and finding hope again when life feels like it's fallen apart. Before we get started, here's the inside scoop on the author. Tessa King is an emerging author whose debut novel, My Wingman, explores themes of courage and the journey of rediscovering happiness after grief. With a professional background in laboratory science, Tessa brings a unique perspective to her storytelling and enjoys analyzing rich, emotional narratives. When she isn't writing, you can find her supporting her husband at the drag strip, indulging in her passion for coffee and books, or enjoying quality time with her beloved German Shepherd, Preacher. Residing in the Midwest, she admits to having a terrible green thumb and is still mastering the art of knitting. However, she shines in the art of sarcasm and delights in baking sweet treats. A devoted Detroit Lions fan, Tessa embraces life with humor and heart, inviting readers to join her on her literary adventures. And you can learn more about Tessa King and her work at tessaking.com. Well, hi, Tessa. Welcome to Inside Scoop Live.
Hello, it is great to be here with you. I'm very excited.
I can't wait to hear all about your book. Why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about My Wingman, what it's about, and what inspired you to write the story.
Well, My Wingman, it's my debut novel, and it's a story of Clover, her journey through rediscovering a path to happiness after she goes through a catastrophic loss of her best friend and platonic soulmate named Elliot. So, she's devastated, unable to kind of see beyond the current time and the pain, and gets captured in a tug of war between memories from the past and dreams she's given up along the way. So it's really about her challenge and then finding hope in those uncertain times and reaching out to sometimes unexpected connections to kind of get her through onto a path to her real future. So that's the summary of the story. How it came about was I was personally experiencing some major health challenges several years ago, and I was in somewhat of a dark place dealing with my own loss of identity in a way. I was not really comfortable with that change in my day to day, that loss of accomplishment or that feeling of making an impact, I guess. So I had to kind of switch priorities and learn to trust somehow that it was meant to be and would all work out. I had never really written anything creative writing before. It just became as I was, laid up for a while and reading a book a day to pass the time. I thought, maybe I could do this and
Oh,
maybe it
wow.
will help me to get through it myself. So that's literally how it started, was somewhat on a whim that day, and it just kind of happened naturally at a pace that just, had highs and lows. But in more ways than one, I felt myself heal through that process, and I kind of felt Clover do that on the pages as well.
Oh, wow. What a great story behind the story. I love that. So, did you end up taking any creative writing classes or did you just start writing?
I started writing. In college, I took some courses, women's studies classes, where we did a lot of creative writing then, but nothing official and hadn't in decades. So it was really just kind of pacing it out and seeing where it went. I had no major intention of doing anything with it. I, eventually went back to work after being on medical leave for a while, and it kind of just got tabled.
Mm.
So eventually, after some time and going through it and just rereading it on my own, just to kind of see, after the fact what it read like, I had some support from friends and family to say, I really think you should maybe do something with this. And
Wow.
that's what happened.
I love that. That is wonderful. So, you mentioned Clover losing her best friend Elliot, and Elliot has passed away when the novel begins, but he's still very central to the story. How did you approach writing a character who is gone physically, but he's very present in memory and spirit?
Yeah, I think at the time I didn't really have a specific tactic that I was going to use to make that happen. It
Mhm.
kind of just was the intent of anchoring him through her point of view, maybe not through narrative or specific memories, but in those subtle everyday things. More of the way he shaped her, help her feel secure or understood. So, she can recall the memories, but I really wanted it to be drawn out of her emotions and kind of that incognito moment.
Mm.
So, his presence is comforting to her and maybe even a bit challenging, I'd say, just guiding her through it all. So it's her perception and even the grief in general that gives him that presence without really physically being there anymore.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the setting. Why did you choose Franklin, Tennessee? What drew you to that place as the setting for your story?
Well, I knew I needed to set up something drastically different from where she was living in Chicago to give more of a comfort level hometown feel.
Mm.
I didn't want to pull her all the way back to maybe her hometown, which was in Georgia, but I was just kind of thinking through options one day and simultaneously listening to Dave Ramsey and thought, gee, maybe I could make her trip planned to be an adventure to do her debt free scream. It's funny how things pop into your head at times. So that led to where is Ramsey headquarters and would that fit the story? So I researched it more and it just sort of became a place she needed to be and also a little tribute to Dave Ramsey in there as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I took that course many years ago.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
better than I deserve, right?
Oh. Now, you mentioned Clover seeing Elliot still, and are these moments, I guess, signs that Elliot is watching over her still, or is it kind of her way of finding hope through her grief?
Yeah, I think it's really truly open to interpretation.
Mm.
I think they reflect probably both her grieving heart and his lingering presence. So maybe not in the physical sense, but,
Mhm.
just signs of hope that she is processing through the loss kind of toward that healing. I'm a firm believer in angels. I think they're subtle reminders that pop up when we feel we need them most,
Mhm.
kind of in sometimes coincidental ways and others mystical. And whether you're a person of faith or not, I still think there are moments that blur that line between imagination and memory and spiritual nudges maybe,
Yeah.
that they kind of pop up as signs that we need most, and they're ones that we can create or notice when we're really ready to see them. So I just feel like she leaned on that a lot, whether it was him in a specific way or more just a spiritual kind of leading, guiding way.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I'm kinda I'm not shocked because people do it all the time, but I'm so interested that this is your debut because you didn't just sit down and write a book, but you also used shifting timelines. I mean, to me, that sounds really hard writing the past and the present and then kinda combining, into a cohesive reading experience. How did using that timeline, that shifting timeline, shape the way readers did experience Clover's journey?
I really feel like it's just that relatable point that grief and loss can drag you back and forth.
Mm.
And so that's where a lot of the bouncing around came from, I think, just how memories pop into your mind, or there's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes it's just an emotion that takes hold of you, kind of grabs you back. So I felt it was important for her to do that, to go back to recall his presence. So maybe not all in a historical daydreaming type of way, but to truly just kind of bounce the setting back and forth abruptly, because I think that's how it feels in real life. In the first draft, let me tell you, it was not that smooth or well planned out. It was, upon rereading and going back over and having a beta reader even suggest, maybe you should rework this a little bit in the beginning. So it was bumpy. It was not an easy process, but I think it still had meaning to her journey.
Yeah. I like the point you made though about I mean, that's how it happens in real life. You're doing something, then all of a sudden you have a memory and it happens. So writing it that way is more authentic.
Yeah, but it was challenging for sure.
Oh, I have a lot of respect for writers. I mean, I love to read, but I don't know if I could be on the other side of that. Tell us a little bit about Elliot's brother, Everett. He's charming, but he's kind of hard to pin down, too. What did you want readers to wonder about him and his connection with Clover? Tell us a little bit about that relationship.
Yeah, he's there as a support system, obviously, for Clover. And she is to him in a way because he's also battling the loss of his brother.
Hmm.
So they both kind of use each other as a living connection, I feel like, to Elliot and his memory. But Everett definitely offers, kind of an energy spark and some witty charm that kind of keeps you bouncing around a little bit. But I feel like he also presents a challenge to Clover that offers her a reset. You kind of see her strength and spirit resurface when she's around him. She develops more decisive moments, I think, with him around.
Mm.
So it's kind of a two-way street with the two of them helping each other out and getting through that moment. But he kind of keeps readers wondering if their connection is genuine or is it a rebound after losing Elliot. I personally really liked him. There are some readers that share that they're not the biggest fan of Everett because they think he's sneaky or, they don't know how to take his own insecurities, but still have him being rooted as this very complex, dynamic character. But I think that imperfection gives him a quality that helped me connect with them more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't want perfect characters, that's for sure. That's
Right.
not
And
real.
he's a really good red herring. So
Okay.
yeah.
Now, Clover has other people in her support system. How did those relationships help you kind of show her path toward healing?
Yeah, I feel like she is very shy and introverted and
Mm,
has, over time, because of her past experiences, really built up those strong protective walls. But it takes some of them with a stronger personality, like Reese or Everett, and then some with more of a gentle approach, like Sadie and Poppy, and even Haley and Josh when they come into the storyline that kind of break down that wall and offer her that genuine support and care system that she's desperate for at the time. So it kind of drew out more of a gradual healing, I think, with her, that process she's going through. It's not big, obvious changes, perhaps, over time, but those ones that are kind of tucked away deeper, where she pulls from them and pulls their strength, but in return, she's also offering them support. She consoles Poppy, she supports Sadie in her journey as well. So I think it's that back and forth that she starts to develop true concept that she's never truly alone. She just needs to allow herself those strangers in her life sometimes even to make that human connection.
yeah, yeah. Like that saying, it takes a village. What does the role of community do for healing in general, do you think?
That's a key thing I wanted to bring in this story is just that element of human connection. So it doesn't have to be a huge village. It could just be a few new people or a
Hmm.
stranger offering a kind gesture as you're going along your way. But we all need people we can count on to get us through tough battles in life. And I think this just shows even those small groups of friends lift each other in ways that you don't always expect them to help you actually push you along. Healing isn't about doing it alone, right? It's
Right.
being spontaneous and taking the realistic aspects of it all in that give and take. And community, no matter what kind of community, is vital.
Yeah. I like what you said about it. It doesn't have to be a big village or a big community. Just so you're not trying to do it yourself, because I think left to our own devices, it can go the other way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Clover has faced loss from early on in her life, growing up without her mother and then later seeing her grandmother's decline. How do her earlier experiences influence the way she handles Elliot's death?
Yeah, that's a hard one, right? She has suffered a lot of early loss, but I think really she learned young to carry that grief quietly and to build up
Mm,
those walls to protect herself. I think she feels that need to process pain alone, and she doesn't want to be a burden or drag anyone down with her.
mm,
But over time, especially with multiple things layering, I think that pain kind of packs down and hardens her to a point that when she loses Elliot, it's like it just cracks open and becomes real and raw. So, yeah, she has to find a new way to process it all because that, retreat and withdraw strategy doesn't necessarily work for her any longer. So she's really trying to find a new way to heal that already bruised heart that she's kind of carried with her.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And that's what it takes to move to something new. You've got to be ready, this way isn't working. I got to try something else.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody has to flash it in front of you so you see it. It isn't always evident to ourselves, right?
Right. You know what I wanted to ask in the beginning is where did the title come from, My Wingman? What does that mean? And what does the title mean in relation to the story?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think the new terminology of wingman is, having kind of that lighthearted, fun part of life, social setting to help you out and get you through stuff. But in this sense, I think it's more of a deeper spiritual connection that even if this moment in time, Elliot wasn't physically there anymore, he still could guide her and offer her that light at the end of the tunnel, something to seek. She always knew him to be there and be supportive and even challenge her to push her along. And I
Mm,
think it's just that continuation of that afterwards. So the wingman maybe isn't necessarily specifically Elliot all the time, but it could just be that spirit that is kind of lying beneath the surface in all of us that just you have to open up to.
okay, yeah, yeah. I love that. Now, your book blends, of course, moments of deep grief and love and laughter and also new beginnings. Why was it important to you to show both sides of that journey?
Yeah. Well, first of all, nobody wants to read a book that's entirely dark and depressing, right?
That's true.
You gotta have some hope in it. So
And
you
take a
have to find a
break. Yeah.
balance. Yeah. Otherwise, it just it's not when you're going to sit down and binge read if it's just that heavy all the time. But I think it's impossible to write about grief or talk about grief or go through it without also taking the love and joy with it. I think they're very much tied together. I read once, I don't remember to even quote who said it or where I found it, but it's just been kind of stuck in my brain ever since, is that grief is only heavy because the love was real. And I think
Mm,
that's one of those best explanations that I've ever heard. If you have those moments of laughter and connection and new beginnings, it kind of reminds us that even in those hard times of life, there are those moments that can still nudge you forward and pull you through. And I think it's both sides that, you know, you definitely don't want to take anything for granted. And those key moments, those highlights, the good times, we need to kind of seek those out more and then really process them to help us use them later, even when we need them.
yeah. You have some deep themes in the story: friendship, love, faith, transformation. Which theme feels most personal to you,
Yeah, that's a hard one.
if any?
It is.
All of
I
them,
think,
or yeah.
yes, all of the above, but I think probably if I think through this whole journey of writing this book and, how it all started and the process of even deciding to go through the publishing process, I think transformation probably at this point in time, I have the most connection with. Life throws curveballs, right? And has a way of reshaping us in joy and heartbreak. And so I think that transformation, both Clover's transformation in the story and how I even grew through the whole process, just kind of reflects how realistic it all is. So,
Mm,
I didn't want a overly melancholy story or even oozing with too much happily ever after. It's
mm,
just really that transformation to show how change can be painful or joyful, but either way, it does shape us and we
right.
learn from it. I feel like somehow through a free fall, we still end up landing where we're supposed to be, even if the time it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Was there a particular scene that meant the most to you while you were writing the story or afterwards as you were kind of rereading?
Yeah, while writing, because I didn't have a specific outline or like the story just kind of took itself where it went. So at the time when it was going on the page, I don't think it hit me. But
Mm.
when I was doing a reread, I really feel like the moment I think when Clover calls Elliot's phone number to hear his voice one more time, that one gave me the chills
Oh,
afterwards.
yeah.
Just because, yeah, it was electric to me afterwards. In the moment, I don't think it stood out to me, but she's just trying to make that connection to him and maybe offer, even if imperfect, some closure. So she's still clinging on, but at that moment in that call, I feel like she finally accepts the truth
Hmm.
while also starting to understand that it's time to move on. So it's kind of a major game
Yeah.
changer for her. So I
Wow.
think that one really took me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so surreal. I mean, we understand that our loved ones, they're not here anymore, but I don't know. It's just, but how can that be? I just talked to him yesterday, or, you know,
Right.
it's so surreal, I guess.
Yeah. And really, in
Yeah.
that moment, I think as she's speaking, it's just kind of flowing through her in real time and what she's saying. And I just feel like somehow maybe that pressure around her starts to evaporate. Like you can almost feel it lifting a little bit that, it's her own way of dealing with it. And it's maybe not the best way, but
Mm,
she's still moving forward and she can see progress, giving herself a little grace, maybe.
right. So I'm curious, what did the process of writing the book teach you about yourself?
I think it's probably similar to kind of how I just answered the last question.
Ah,
Maybe realizing that there isn't always a right path through things, and it's accepting that fact that it's still a path, right? We're still moving through it, we're still getting through it. So I feel like I'm not sure if I helped Clover learn those lessons or if she helped me more.
yeah.
In a way, but somewhere we grew together because, she gave me permission to be patient with myself as I was writing and kind of getting through hard times and trying to figure out where life was taking me. So it reminded me that healing isn't perfect, whether you're grieving or whatever you're going through. It's easy to forget we can't fix everything. For people that like to be in control, it's a major hurdle. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Her story was teaching me that I was still on a path, even if it was a struggle or one I wasn't expecting to be going through at the time.
Right. Right. Wow. What do you hope readers take away from My Wingman when they finish?
I think that the biggest thing would be just hope to know that they're not alone. And it's not the pace of how we overcome those challenges in life. It's just how we face them each day in our own way. Sometimes you have to depend on someone else to carry part of that weight. So just finding strength moving together to do things that you accomplish them that you maybe couldn't have done alone.
Hmm. So, how has your debut experience been? You mentioned some reader feedback. How has the feedback been in general? How has the whole experience been for you?
Yeah, the publishing process is a challenge. I always thought when I was writing that that would be the hard part, but it's not. It's everything afterwards, figuring it out, and I had no experience or anything in this writing world or publishing world, so, yeah, it was a lot to catch up on, but it also gave me, a new sense of purpose,
Yeah.
something to work towards. That was good. I like to learn new things, but yeah, the whole, getting formatting right and cover design and figuring out how to upload it and get everything out there to publish and then the marketing, everything afterwards. But through it all, I really feel like it's been worth the hard work and effort. And even if I hear from one person that says this story, really drew them in and they were able to connect with it and gain something out of it, then it's worth it. Because ultimately, the whole writing it was selfishly for me, right? It was to get
Mm,
me through the moment. The fact that any more can come out of that and other people are reading it and actually saying, this is having an impact on them, then, that's just the icing on the cake.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a big win. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, what's next for you? Do you think you'll write another book?
I am. I'm currently working on the next project. About a third of the way through, I decided to go through it similar to my last, only I'm feeling much better this time around, but I'm just taking it at the pace that I can. And I'm working and tackling things at home and real life. And so I
Yeah.
write when I have time, but I'm hoping to have this one out early summer next year, 26.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, it's been a challenge trying to keep up with everything still going on with my wingman, but I feel myself, at least my brain, starting to disconnect a little bit from that story because I'm really enjoying the process of writing the new one.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything you can tell us about it, or you want to kind of keep it to yourself for now?
Well, it's still going to be mainly about the resilience of a woman trying to
Hmm.
get through difficult times in life. This one I feel like is less heavy, less dark, but it still builds around that aspect. She's running away from a past only to find that she basically completely loses her own identity in that process. So she's having to decide what's more important to her. Is she to continue protecting herself and her loved ones, or more being brave enough to face the past and those dangers in order to really get back to living her life again. So I'm excited about it. I'm really enjoying some new characters and developing them further, and finding little fun plot twists in this one as well. So it's
Yeah.
good, but it's a challenge balancing everything right now and working on that, but I'm having a good time. So yeah, I'm hoping for next summer. And in the meantime, I feel like be working on little mini projects here and there and doing some book events, and I have audiobook starting production for my wingman.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, there's lots to do.
Yes. Yes. Never a dull moment, as they say.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, good. Wonderful. Well, it sounds like you're busy and going to be busy for a while. Is there anything else you wanted to add today for listeners?
I just want to say that the entire book community, reader community, has been extremely supportive through this whole process for me. For someone who's never been down this road before and felt very vulnerable in the beginning on whether I should put this out there into the world, has been a thrill to see how it's been accepted.
Mm.
And I just really appreciate that. And, I'm a huge reader, but I have a whole new perspective on this process and truly admire anyone else in the world that is going through tough times and maybe uses words on a page as an outlet, because I think there's definitely a benefit to it. And some of us just read to get through those moments.
Hmm.
And that's pretty exciting as well. So I like seeing both sides of the story, and I just really appreciate the opportunity for anyone that wants to maybe read into this story that somehow my mind pulled together.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Tessa, thank you so much for joining me on the show today and sharing a little bit about yourself and your work. I appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. I really had a great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me today for my interview with Tessa King, author of My Wingman. You can learn more about Tessa King and her work at tessaking.com. And be sure to check out our other interviews at InsideScoopLive.com.